You are probably looking at glass right now, and you do not even realize it. Your phone screen and your window and the bulb above your head are all made from the exact same ingredient as the beach you walked on last summer. Sand plus fire equals glass. And if that sounds simple, it is not. The process was discovered by accident roughly 4,000 years ago when lightning struck a patch of desert sand. The lightning bolt heated the sand to over 3,000 degrees instantly. When traders crossed that patch of desert the next morning, they found strange translucent lumps buried in the sand. Those lumps were the first glass ever made by human observation. Though nature had been making obsidian from volcanic lava for millions of years before that, today we make glass in a slightly more controlled way than waiting for lightning. The main ingredient is silica, which is just a fancy word for quartz sand. But not any sand will do. Beach sand is full of salt and shell fragments and organic material that would turn the glass brown and brittle. The best glass sand comes from inland quarries where ancient oceans left behind pure white silica deposits millions of years ago. This sand is washed and filtered and sorted by grain size. Each grain is less than 0.5 millimeter across and perfectly uniform because any variation would create a weak spot in the final glass. The clean sand is mixed with 2 other ingredients: soda ash, which is made from burnt plants or mined from dry lake beds, and limestone, which is basically crushed seashells compressed over millions of years. Soda ash lowers the melting temperature of sand from over 3,000 degrees to a much more manageable 1,500 degrees. Without soda ash, making glass would use so much energy that your window would cost more than your house. Limestone makes the glass waterproof. Without limestone, the glass would slowly dissolve in water like a sugar cube in coffee. You would literally be able to wash your windows away with a garden hose. The 3 powders are fed into a massive furnace that operates continuously for 10 to 15 years without ever being turned off. The furnace is a swimming pool-sized tank lined with heat-resistant bricks that glow bright orange from the inside. The powder mix enters one end as a cold gray dust and emerges at the other end as a river of glowing orange liquid glass flowing like honey at 2,500 degrees. This river of molten glass pours onto a bath of liquid tin, and this is the genius innovation that made modern glass possible. Tin is a metal that melts at a much lower temperature than glass, and it is denser than glass. So the molten glass floats on top of the tin like oil floating on water. Because the tin surface is perfectly flat, the glass spreads out into an absolutely flawless sheet with no waves or bumps or imperfections. The glass ribbon floats along the tin bath, gradually cooling from orange to red to transparent as it moves. At the cool end of the bath, the glass has solidified enough to be lifted off the tin by rollers. This is called the float glass process, and it was invented by a British engineer named Alastair Pilkington in 1959. He got the idea while washing dishes and watching grease float on water. Before his invention, every window in the world had to be ground and polished flat by hand. After his invention, you could make perfectly flat glass continuously without a single human hand touching it. The glass ribbon, now a solid sheet about 6 feet wide, passes through an annealing tunnel. This is a long temperature-controlled oven that cools the glass very, very slowly over several hours. If glass cools too fast, the outside shrinks faster than the inside, and the stress cracks the whole sheet. The annealing tunnel prevents this by cooling the glass at exactly the right speed calculated by lasers that measure the internal temperature in real time. At the end of the tunnel, the glass meets a machine called the cut line. Diamond-tipped wheels score the glass surface with a hair-thin scratch. Then, a quick tap on the other side and the glass snaps perfectly along the score line. No sawing and no melting and no cutting, just a scratch and a tap. The cut sheets are stacked and shipped to become the windows in your house and the screen on your phone and the windshield in your car. For phone screens, the glass goes through an extra step. It is dipped in a bath of molten potassium salt, which replaces the smaller sodium atoms in the glass with larger potassium atoms. This creates compression on the surface that makes the glass dramatically stronger. This is Gorilla Glass, and it is why your phone screen survives being dropped from pocket height. The glass on a skyscraper is also special. It is coated with an invisible layer of metal oxides just a few atoms thick. This coating reflects infrared heat while letting visible light pass through, which is why the building stays cool in summer and warm in winter. The coating is so thin that if you stacked 1,000,000 layers, they would be as thick as a single human hair. So the window you are looking through right now was once sand in an ancient seabed. It was melted in a furnace that has been burning for a decade and floated on a river of liquid metal and cooled for hours and cut with a diamond, all so you could look outside and see the sky. If you want more stories about how everyday things are secretly incredible, hit like and subscribe and ring the bell. And comment below, what should we melt down and explain next? I read every suggestion and the best one becomes next week's episode.